Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Hot Take. We're doing another special episode for Killer Queen 25 right before this massive tournament. Some would say the second Nationals, or even the Nationals before Nationals was a thing. Joining me today, we have Aaron Goldberg to talk about his organization in Killer Queen Chicago and to talk about his long history in Killer Queen. So, Aaron, how you doing, man?
I'm good, buddy. How are you?
I'm great. You want to
Awesome.
tell us a little bit about you? You know, what you do, where you've been, just
Yeah, sure. I can give some background if this thing gets burned after. I don't want anybody using it against me. I'm from this area, sort of. I'm from a near west suburb of Chicago called River Forest. It's sort of like the baby brother, baby sister town to a bigger town called Oak Park. The high school's Oak Park River Forest High School. Famous alumni include Ray Kroc, who made McDonald's, the voice of Homer Simpson, and Ernest Hemingway. And it's about 25 minutes west of here, just down North Avenue. If traffic wasn't so bad in Chicago, like if this was Arizona, where they actually have real roads that are like 4 wide, like going each way, it would take 10 minutes to get there because it's about yeah. But so I grew up there. I went to University of Illinois. I've always sort of lived around here. I went to law school at Loyola Chicago, business school there as well. I've pretty much my entire life lived in Illinois within a 15-mile radius, other than UI, which is downstate.
of
But
course.
for 4 years, I pretty much lived in this radius the whole time.
Yeah. So I guess that it kind of begs the question. Knowing that you're a big sports fan, what's your favorite baseball team? Just to get this out of
Yeah,
the way.
so I'm a Cubs fan. I grew up. My dad had season tickets to the Cubs, so I grew up in Wrigley Field a lot. You don't love it when you're getting dragged to it as a kid.
Yeah.
And then, like in my teen years, I was actually a White Sox fan. I was like on the border, and then I was a Sox fan, and then I ended up coming back to the Cubs. And I've been a pretty diehard Cubs fan my whole life.
I mean, this kind of gives me an opportunity. It's not as sweet as it used to be. But I know you probably went through some painful years with the Cubs not ever winning a World Series. And as a Cardinals fan, I feel comfortable bringing that up.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, gosh.
that
I
being
got this
said,
ridiculous.
congratulations for your World Cup in the last few years.
Yeah, and
Uh,
that's a memory for me that's sort of entwined with Killer Queen because I watched that in Midway Airport with Dylan Conrad as we were waiting for our flight to go to Austin for BB1, for
wow.
Bumble Bash 1. We were delayed by 3.5 hours, literally until 10 minutes after the game ended. That's when our flight took off. And we were supposed to leave at like 7:05.
Yeah.
So that's just one of those things like going nuts in Midway with 20 other people, one of them being one of your best buds.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And I know you're interested in sports is not limited to baseball. And you even interact with some other Killer Queen people
Yeah.
with your sports fascinations.
Yeah, you can catch me in the Slack arguing basketball with Dylan. We joke that it turns into our own personal basketball talk. But we've had like in Chicago, he's a huge people head, and that's really when we first started hanging out. His love of basketball and rap music are two things that I appreciate. So it's great to have somebody around to talk about that stuff. And so he's actually started a fantasy basketball league, and we've run it for 3 years. And he didn't realize, I don't think, when he first made it, that I'm a ringer, and I've been doing it for like 15 years. So I did the first 2 years of it, and then this year it was a down with Aaron Strat, and it worked. Kurt Hansen from RC won. The KQ Basketball League is fun. It's just Chicago, really. And then David Garzone started a fantasy baseball league for Killer Queen. And that's got a bunch of cool people from all over the country in it, like Dylan Higgins, who actually worked in baseball for a while from Portland, and we're all trying to beat him. He's in first place right now at the halfway mark. So yeah, I love sports. Just the sort of competitive aspect of it. I played rec softball. I've always sort of tried to stay active in that way. But Killer Queens kind of sort of absorbed a good portion of that, like competitiveness. That aspect of my life, trying to be involved and on a cooperative team.
Yeah, was Killer Queen your kind of entrance into video games, or do you have a longer history with?
Yeah, no, I go way back. So I was born in '83, so that I'll be 35 this year. My dad was a huge Nintendo head in the '80s, And anybody who's around in the 80s, like, you were lucky to get cartridges. My dad would just buy them if you liked them, and we had like 95 of them around our house.
Wow.
Pretty much all the old classics, and actually still sitting in my mom's house. I don't think she'll watch this, but sorry, Mom. And so he'd grow up playing with us, and like over time, though, it was just something that I would become entrenched in, and it would kind of come in waves. But there are certain games that like are iconic in my history. Like, you know, I can think of Final Fantasy VII when I was in 8th grade. In high school, I can think of Zelda.
Yeah.
You know, the gold N64 cartridge Zelda.
Mm-hmm.
And then college, my first year, I was playing like a lot of NBA Street. We had Madden stuff going. And then my second year, I became addicted to SOCOM, U.S. Navy SEALs.
I remember that
which
one.
was the first console shooter, like online game. And I got into clans in that, and I was like, you know, a nationally ranked clan. I don't know what the competition was like. It's probably similar to Killer Queen now. We were called Swordfish, SW, and I became the clan leader there. And I literally almost failed out of college playing that game. I was not doing well. I was not going to class. And then, you know, I had Xbox. So I played Gears of War a bit. And then one of my gamer friends, saw me playing Final Fantasy VII again on my PS3. I was doing it, and they were like, you know what? If you like that, then you'd love Warcraft. And I was like, no, come on, WoW, are you kidding? And this is 2010, so it's Wrath of the Lich King. And he's like, no, trust me, you would. It's like that, just online. And looking for connection, you know, always, you have your hobbies, but you're also looking for connection in them. And so Warcraft and anything that involved dealing with other people will always have that allure for me.
Yeah.
So I had a buddy who played it, who also went to law school, and asked him for some tips. And he's like, yeah, and I joined his guild at first. I was a Draenei shaman in Wrath of the Lich King years. But that clan wasn't enough for me in terms of competitiveness. I wanted more. So I joined a raiding guild called Dusk on the Laughing Skull server, and would spend probably over 40 hours a week during law school, my third year of law school, playing the Wrath of the Lich King. And yeah, my mom thought I was gonna fail the bar exam because I was playing too much Killer Queen. I'm not Killer Queen, sorry, Warcraft.
Too soon.
And yeah, and then I kind of burned out. Like I had some other things happen in my life, getting a job, getting work, doing other stuff. I couldn't do that anymore. So I sort of dropped it, and then after that, I was kind of sporadic. I'd play a little Madden or a little NCAA football for a few years, but nothing. I can't think of anything that really grabbed me. Like, that was a time in my life where I spent a lot of time catching up on television shows that I had not seen, and movies, and like reading books and having hobbies that I didn't have before,
Right.
Or that I dabbled in, and that was sort of like I didn't play them as much, and then. I saw an advertisement. Like, I knew this arcade bar had come 2 blocks away from my house. I'd seen the lines outside of it because when it first opened, there was lines outside of it every weekend night. Mm-hmm. And I like followed them on Twitter, and I saw them mention they had this 10-player arcade game, and I was like, well, that's gonna check off all my boxes because not only will that get me out of the house, it'll allow me to like play against other people. So it checked out, and that was when I started playing Killer Queen, which was back in, first time I played was late August of 2014.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I know a lot of Chicago people go way back with this game. Where would you put yourself in the list of Chicago players? Were you in the first 5, the first 10?
No. Yeah. I mean, so I was just a weekend casual for a while, and I tell friends about it, and we like went to go play on my birthday, but they had moved it to Bit Bash that weekend, so we couldn't even play. So I didn't play until KQ3 in an organized tournament, and I was in a pickup team with my buddy, his girlfriend, and 2 other people we had never met. And we would just go in on weekends, and you go in at like 9 o'clock at night, and you come out at 1 in the morning. Like, what did I just do with my life? You know, 50-cent games. Like, it was a dark room. It was in the middle, and you just be entranced. I going to KQ3 and seeing players, and like that was the first time like I saw like Kenny and Andrew Quang Draquan and Josh Hecklau and those guys, and like, and you see them play, and you just think, tapping this button, I am never going to be that good. Is literally what I was like. I am never going to be that good at tapping that button. I have no idea how these guys are doing it. It was a completely like overwhelming experience to see people play and play that well. But we kind of took some time off, and then the winter months came around, and you see a post, you join the Facebook group just to try to get in tournaments when they had them, which was once a month. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden there's league night, And I'll never forget walking in to league night and just just really meeting Josh Ecklau for the first time officially, like him sitting there, welcoming you in, signing you up on a team. And it's just like from there, kind of caught the bug,
Yeah.
And it was still a struggle though, because I do deal with some amount of social anxiety, even though, so like that's the staying at home and playing online is what always kind of appeals to you. But now, it's winter nights and you got to go on a Wednesday and you got to go play this game. And it would almost be like a mental battle to just like talk myself into it.
Yeah.
You go, Aaron, you're not doing anything else. This episode of TV will be there when you get back to it. Like you can go. And just having like Josh and like DJ, guys like that were just super welcoming at first. It's huge. And then eventually somebody told me I was good. One person was like, whoa, you did really good. And that was like the first time I was like, okay, I can do this. Like I can be a part of this.
Yeah. It's really cool to me to hear you say Josh Ecklau was there even when you started, for someone who started so long ago. Because I think a lot of players still like meet Ecklau and they're just feel very welcomed by him.
Yeah, absolutely.
In Chicago and wherever he travels, and he does that a lot. So it's just cool to see someone like that pass through the ages, I guess.
Yeah, and you just I've got more gray hairs than I did back then. You just hope that you could freeze time in a way. Almost. Like. And even in this week, and even with this much going on, you almost wish you could like freeze this moment and just like let everything always be this way forever in a way, Yeah. Like we have this big tournament, everybody's coming here, everybody's excited to come here. Everybody's still playing this game. Not everybody's moved out of town yet. I mean, maybe I'd rewinded a few months to keep Dylan around, but and Paul and Spencer and OTK and Kevin, everybody that's moving away. If there's some way to just go back in time and keep them all, but yeah, I mean, like just. It's so great that you have Josh, and you just wish Josh could just be there forever. And so that is part of the mentality, though, is trying to make sure that this will continue going even when we get older and can't play anymore.
Yeah. So let's dive into this. Let's talk about Killer Queen. Chicago. Fast forward, present day. Who is the best Speed Warrior in Killer Queen Chicago?
Yeah, that's. God, I saw this question on the list, and I hoped you would ask. I mean, that's a great question. I do think there's a certain tier of players. I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with saying somebody's always the best. I mean, if you're going to put a gun to my head and say you must name the best player, I'm going to name myself because I have confidence in myself. And I do think that you can make a strong argument that it is me. I do think you can. But I also think that somebody else, like, just because you get in an argument doesn't mean that somebody's always right.
Right.
I think somebody could come back and say Helen's better than you, or Dan's better than you, or Garzone's better than you. I mean, he's not really a Speed Warrior, but, you could come back with arguments for other people and say that they're better than you, and I could see that point as well. They do other things differently than I do. They have a different mentality, and it's a team game. So how they fit into certain structures, like when Dre and Helen have it going right now, it's it's tough. You saw that at Bumble Bash too. You've seen it when they played. They just won the MCS a few weeks ago. Like when those two are going, like that's real hot stuff. And when Dan played with Andrew for years, I think it might be again soon. That was hot. Like they were undefeated for years. And I don't quite have, I mean, I've been playing with Cesar a good amount. He and I are trying to work to a place where we could say, like, this combo is there, where we're the most formidable. I do think that this build, if I was to make an argument that I was the best, it would be primarily entrenched in the fact that my biggest weakness in Killer Queen was removed about 6-7 months ago, which is the ability to hover and hold the ceiling.
Right.
Like I just watched KQ15 or portions yesterday. I literally couldn't even hold a hover. I could not. Like I'm like, you watch me running away from Dan like over and over again because I wasn't gonna mess with him on a 50-50 battle. And it's like your mentality changes when your limitations are removed. So I think right now I keep getting better and better. I think everybody, they're great too. I wouldn't be mad. I would if somebody said Dan's better than me or Helen's better than me, or some people love. I mean, Christina's great. Some people say Christina's better. I mean, I can't argue any of these people. Sparza when he played Speed Warrior, Andrew Quang's a really good Speed Warrior. Cesar is. Rishi's amazing. So I could see an argument for anybody, but like, yeah, I would have to argue for myself because this is the hot take, and we're on the hot take, and just gotta fight for yourself.
Well, I mean, so then I'm just gonna throw a curveball at you. Let's go national. What Warriors do you dread playing against on the national scene?
It's you. You are my nemesis.
Okay, but besides me. Besides me.
Wolf's been beating me lately. Lev comes to mind immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Neil Smith, I just played him. I actually haven't played that much against him, but he's scary. He's very scary to go against. Who else scares me? Dan Miller in Minneapolis. He plays, I think, of a fairly similar game to me in ways, in that he's patient. He's very good. Jay Sisk is money too up there. And then the New Yorkers, you always got to watch out for the B Wong, Sarah Greenwood, duo Wyatt. They're all great. I'm a little scared of Jorge right now in Charlotte. He killed it.
Very aggressive. He's a very aggressive player.
I'm pretty scared. He's in my group too.
Yeah.
I'm a little scared. I'm scared of him right now. So.
It's good to have.
I would say Turbo, but I've killed Turbo so many times. And he doesn't even play anymore. So.
He's been on a bit of a hiatus, but he still comes to tournaments, and he played on a team with it's Lit Famine. He played with Brian McFadden as his queen, and they did their number of upsets at Coronation.
Yeah. I will also mention Feldkamp. Feldkamp plays a style that tends to get me a little bit because he's really going for it a lot, and he can force the issue, but he's also got an element of surprise to it. So that's definitely another one I should include.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm going to shift gears, and we're going to jump back in time again. You've been on a number of good teams, and if we go back far enough, we can talk about OG Hot Dogs, which made a reappearance recently. Do you want to talk about what made Hot Dogs so great back in the day?
Hot Dogs was an interesting team because it was really at first it was me, Dylan, Cesar, and Katz. And then Garzone was signed up to play with Dre's team. And there, for whatever reason, he decided not to play with them anymore. And he jumped in with us. And then in the run up to the tournament, Cesar was really busy with school. So the vast 90% at least of our practice games, we had Dylan queening for us. And Cesar would show up times and we'd kill it with him. He's great. And then tournament came around and it really just all came together pretty well for us. I mean, we definitely struggled, if you go back and watch BBO, and we definitely struggled against Portland. And we definitely struggled against you guys, New York. But, and then Andrew's team, Dracon's team gave us a load of trouble as well. We were up 2-0, and I think they rallied back, and then we won the game 5. But what really worked, I think, was just a certain a spirit, an underdog in a way, because we weren't the highest seeded Chicago team, but also a firm belief in the friendship and the relationship we had and the skills we had at this game. I mean, if you can see me and Dylan dancing at times, it was just like a partnership of the minds with me and Dylan on the one side, and then Garzon had just timely kills, and Cesar played out of his mind. Cads is always a good objective player, obviously, and definitely helps when he Warriors up. So, I mean, those guys, we hang out. Those are friends of mine. So I think that's really, really a big key to making a team that's talented come together, is having like-minded individuals. We definitely fit that.
Yeah, and you took a few of these players and brought them into Spyglass, with a notable change being Dylan as your lead queen here, and picking up the talented Dan Barron, of course.
We did pick up Dan, and then we had Josh Eklau instead of Garzone.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to talk about Spyglass a bit as well?
I mean, we were in practice, we were real strong. We had some stuff we had to work on in terms of who's going to anchor between Cads and Eklau, and we were winning our share of the rounds in practice for sure. In terms of split, I don't have a percentage on it, but it was close between us and my wife for sure. I think maybe it might have gone our way a little bit, but there were nights where they just beat us the whole time and then we beat them the whole time the next time, and it was just kind of a weird way that worked. And so, yeah, I mean, when that tournament came along, it's always interesting traveling, because you're not on your home court anymore. You're not in Chicago anymore. You're not sleeping in your own bed. You're not walking over to the arcade.
Right.
Playing in that loud environment on the cabs that we weren't quite used to. Definitely sort of, whether or not it affected us more than affected other teams in terms of our ability to play the game, I think it definitely affected us mentally more. But it's not, you look back at that result and it's really, I mean, the group stages were really not good for us in terms of our expectations, how well we did, and that didn't help either. But then you look at the next day and you look at our draw, and because the group stage didn't go well, in the national tournament like that, we got slotted in as the 16th seed.
Yeah, that was frustrating for me, personally.
I can imagine. So we had to play a really good Charlotte team with Shipwash as queen and Jorge and Aaron Tran and those guys. And we won 3-0, but they were like real long, tough rounds. And then we immediately had to go from one of the main cabs to playing you guys on the Logan Arcade cab, which was playing pretty differently that day. And we took you to 5. We were literally a berry away from winning a night map. Granted, both sides forced the other side to run berries, which at the time nobody was doing. We did it to you on Dusk. And then on night map, you literally locked us out. So we ran berries. And so we were really fighting from our back foot. Yeah. But our back foot got us to 1 berry away until you killed Dylan on the wrap.
Footage lost to the annals of just forever.
Yeah, it's gone. It's gone forever. And that sent us to losers bracket. And, again, like, Minnesota Means, the team we had lined up against, a very tough team that people didn't quite understand how good they were at the time. We were up 2-1. They crushed us on the day map to get to the Dusk map, and we have the snail all the way to the speed gate, 3 warriors to their 1, and it just fell apart completely on us because they're really smart. They were able to bump us out of spots where we were just hanging out with drones. And Dan Miller stayed alive just the entire time and wrecked it. So, I mean, and they ended up winning like 3 more matches after that. They beat Sam did. Like, there's nothing to be mad about. But if you look at the score sheet, you see this team tied for 13th. But if you actually look at the matches we had to play and how that whole thing went, I don't think we were like the 15th best team in the tournament.
Right.
I think we were better than that. But that's just the thing. Like, it's a tournament. And you try to do the best you can for each one of them, and I thought we played pretty well. I had a good time with that team.
Yeah, and so you do mention it is a tournament, and we have an anonymous question talking about your many tournaments, because you do repeatedly hit the top, either with this core from the Spyglass Hot Dogs group, or playing with players from like Bonus Snap. You built a crazy team for Phoenix. You went to Camp KQ. All really strong finishes, and you're kind of the only connection between these. But our anonymous guest is so kind to point out there's not a championship itself in this collection. So what keeps you so consistently at the top, but not the top?
That's a good question. So I could go through all of them. It would take probably a long time. KQ20, I mean, it's really been this year. So it's kind of like after Nationals, after Bombast, that was a bit disappointing. I wanted a queen, try it out on the new build. Me and Spencer and Cads kind of threw a team together. But I was really kind of like taking it easy. And then I thought, turning into the new year, you have the thought, like, how much longer can I continue to play Killer Queen in general and also at a high level?
Right.
So the thought process is to get on teams with a few things in mind. One, to try to be competitive, because I like playing Killer Queen and I like the experience of being in competitive tournaments and being in them as long as possible. But also with people I haven't necessarily played with. You don't get that many chances to play with people that you become friends with from across the country. And those are 2 big considerations: trying to win, but also trying to play with people that I wouldn't necessarily get to play with. So I think that second one is probably a bit stronger. Like the Phoenix team, we didn't really even have a queen. KQ23, I mean, Turbo. I mean, but he doesn't queen. He really wasn't queen at that time. Feldkamp, who grinded in KC for like a month or 2, but he's not a queen by like definition. So we kind of put like with the Lev team for 23. I wanted to play with Lev, and I've been bugging him for like a year to play. And then finally he was like, yeah, okay. And then who did I have on my team? All I had was New Guy. And I thought we'd pick, I didn't have any idea. And he was able to say, what about Chris Baldwin and Feldkamp? And I was like, okay, I guess, sure.
And so
and I was
more
actually
on
originally I was going to queen for it. I wanted Lev to carry me as far as possible.
Yeah.
But when Feldkamp expressed interest, I was like, sure, I'll save my hand. Like, go for it, buddy. And so that's really how that team came together. And I think that team was great. And we played really well. We had some real long battles against teams. We had 2-5s against Minnesota Mean. We had a 4 or a 5 against Damish's team the first time, where it was real close. And then the finals were a 7, best of 7. And then the reset was actually a sweep by them. But I think in like that instance in like Phoenix, I think you saw teams that played really well and were able to be cohesive. And you saw some great moments from those queens, and I don't want to throw them under the bus, but championship killer queen, like in the finals, these mixed teams have a tendency to get there and be like, that's what worked for us. Don't change it.
Right.
This is what's got us this far. We're just riding by the seat of our pants. Like, don't mess with what's gotten us to this point. Versus a team that's more practiced or has more of that experience. I mean, like Damish, like practicing with Minnesota, like those people play together. The Goats team or a Beha, Brian Palik's team that beat us. Those are the teams in the finals that'll be like, okay, we need to try this out this time. Remember, we did this in practice. We tried this strategy. Remember how that worked for us? You do this, you do this. They don't have to communicate as much about changing what's worked for them. And they may have that under their belts. They have that confidence because that's worked for them in the past. Right. They've seen it work in practice versus a team that doesn't know. You go, let's run berries. Well, or let's try somebody else at this role. You don't know because that hasn't worked for you in the past. Yeah. So I think that's what I want to say that's what I've run into in finals. Like St. Louis, that might have been a little bit different. The team I played with, yeah, I think Bonus Nat was a little more rigid in their strat than some of the more practice teams you're seeing lately. I do see them changing that a bit. I was new. Me and Ecklau were a whole new element to them. Right. And they just sort of they have like a mind meld. Like Aaron and them, they all just have a mind meld where they know what to do. And I didn't. I'm trying to see where they're at. We had some great rounds. We killed it.
Oh, for sure.
And then the finals, nerves happen and stuff like that happens. I think you guys just did a great job of zoning us out. You and Woody just had a really good mind together. You had your own mind meld going in terms of what to get done to win these rounds as fast as possible. You did.
Yeah, we had a lot of work on that. I was kind of driving the strategy, but we had multiple ideas from every teammate that we found ways to incorporate it. Like Raven made this clutch call. He was like, "We're running snail on night map. Like that's how we're gonna win." And I was like, "All right, let's do it." And we did it, and it worked perfectly. And so like Raven gets credit for at least 2 of the maps in grand finals because she made the call, and it was what worked for us.
Yeah.
But like snail's a pretty safe bet anyway, so like whatever.
Yeah. So I think the short answer to that long answer would be, the getting there, but the cohesion necessary to win championships. When people have won through winners or losers, they get to the end and they take stock of what they've done to that point, and then they go about planning those finals. I think that's kind of where we've come up short a little bit. I also think we've come up against some real good teams that were maybe wanted a little bit more than us. We're a little less complacent than we were. St. Louis, you guys were coming home. You had to win. Phoenix, that was Ryan. Ryan went to college there. Like he's showing all his buddies around. He really wanted that one, and Minneapolis wanted to win one real bad. And 23, Damish just wants to win more than everybody else all the time, right? So whenever you're up against Damish, the other team probably wants to win more.
Yeah. Just remember that.
Yeah. So I think that's those 3. So I think that answers that question really well.
I think there's some good insight there for sure.
Thanks.
So that being said, Killer Queen 25, your team is the renowned Pete's on my Nikes. Of course, a history team with a great performance in the past. You're coming back around. Can you talk about this team a bit?
So this is the same team. This is Cody, Dylan, me, Joel, and Feldkamp. Last time we definitely did the queen swap where it was just a day map and a night map. It was Dylan and Cody. And I'm going to be honest, I don't even know if we're doing after this one or not. I haven't talked to them. There's 3 maps now. It throws a big wrench into things.
Yeah.
I think Cody's volunteered to Queen Dusk. I do know that. And Dylan, I think, is fine with that. So I think if we did continue to queen swap, it would be Cody on night and dusk and Dylan on day. But I don't know where that is right now, because I know Cody hates playing Warrior. So 2 years is a long time. Things change.
Yeah.
So we'll see about roles. Camp and I tried a little stuff at MCS where he was the first speed, and I was actually practicing my vanilla to see how it was. I kind of liked it. I like vanilla. It's fun as the anchor role. I thought it was good. But I think in terms of like team dynamic and what we're gonna do, I think I'll end up being primary speed, and he'll probably do some secondary, and then Dill, if he's warrior full time, he'd probably just stay in the same spot and be the anchor.
Yeah.
If he's queening, we might have to mix that up a bit. And you watch those old games, and there was a lot of berries on Night Map. It's funny to watch the old build and see people being able to kick berries through with authority. Like you could just run your sprite right into that berry and kick it straight across and be fully confident that it was going to the other side.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, I don't know if we're gonna run as many berries. We'll see. Yeah. It's a good strat though. We do like the berries. I love berries pretty much all the time now.
I'm a huge berry fan myself.
Yeah.
On every map, really. Hopefully we will run dayberries in Kansas City and play together.
Yeah, I was thinking dayberries. Yeah, we're playing together. I think dayberries might be a little underrated. You never know. Like you can get them in. I just played them 2-2 last weekend. You can get them in.
It's underrated, but it's still bad. I think that's the key. Like when I say the Beatles are overrated, but they're still good. Like I think people miss that half, the second half.
Right.
They're underrated, but they're just not good.
But they're still good. Yeah.
So let's go on to 25. I know you're a tournament organizer for this, and I know that you've taken the lead for a lot of these big tournaments on seeding, and helping kind of formalize, format and group stages. Do you want to talk about what goes through your head and what you do when you're seeding a tournament this big?
Yeah, sure. So, when you think about seeding and the necessity of seeding, the idea behind seeding generally, I mean, some people will argue maybe that seeding isn't necessary, or that we don't have enough information, or we don't have enough knowledge to accurately seed people, and therefore we're directing the course of the tournament. And so to address that, I can say that I believe we do have enough data to go off of over the past how many years in tournaments to do these things appropriately. And the reason why you want to seed anything is to make sure that the final results are as accurate as possible in terms of team strength. And I think what flows from that accuracy and people feeling that they got out of the tournament what they deserved is creating something that people enjoy. I think that comes from that, because if there's unfairness, or if there's if there's ever unfairness in something, that's gonna stick with people over time, and they're not gonna think back kindly on an event that wasn't fair to them. So that's really the main goal is trying to be fair and trying to be thorough. It is judging, but you're trying to judge in a way where you take as much evidence in as you can. So there are times like in smaller tournaments in the past where I'll just seed them and just put people in order based off of, I look at who the queen is, how much experience they have. I look at how often the teams played together. I look at past tournament results. And there's no charts for this, mind you. This is just observation and just keeping a mental tally sort of what I've got. I look at trends. I look at who's been playing well recently. I look at personalities. I think that kind of goes with the sort of third thing I said. But I take into account the personalities on a team and whether or not it looks like those personalities would get along well in a game.
Yeah.
Whether they're going to complement each other or whether they're going to exacerbate each other. And that's something that you can't really get in a lot of other video games and a lot of other experiences. KQ Black's coming out, which is great. Everybody should play it, support Nick and Josh. But I hope people don't lose the human aspect of Killer Queen. And you can almost tell how a person's going to play or how a team's going to play based on the personalities on top of the talent. So we take all that into account. And I say we because I don't do that by myself anymore. There's too many other people that know a lot and have different perspectives. For that to be the case, I don't think anything like that should be done by a single person, especially on a bigger level. So there's a few of us that do it. You've definitely been involved in some of it. Blake Compton, Jorge, Charlotte, Draquan, Tiana has done it in New York. But then try to ask Cody some stuff here and there, but Lev as well is involved. And you're always looking for more perspective. You're always looking for people that are like studious and want to provide that same experience you do. So you reach out to people as well, though. Like for this tournament, I've talked to people in Minneapolis. I've talked to people in Charlotte, asking them what the teams there stack up. How do they look?
Yeah.
Because I can make an educated guess on whether I think Goats is better than Minneapolis Mean. I can make an educated guess, or I can just ask somebody who sees them practice and play together.
Right.
And they can tell me, and then we can use that information. And we do. And so, you get your list of teams, and then you try for a tournament like this. You could try to put them in order 1 through 35, but that's almost a Herculean task. Like you could really put them in tiers. You can try to, and you can label them if you want. I don't try to label the tiers, but it's you just try to put them in groupings so that when you do try to put people into brackets and go back and forth in the stake, you want to be able to pick from more than one team in the tier so that they don't line up by scene. Because that's a huge consideration, because again, you can only play locally. And if you've been playing the same teams over and over and over again in practice, do you want to travel to play them again?
Right.
And so you take that's a huge part of it. Talent makes the board, or skill or team or whatever, and then scene considerations will make the actual placement of them slightly jive. So, there's multiple tiers you can do, and you do your best with those. You kind of make cutoffs where you feel like a team might not be in the same category as the others. And so that's really how it's worked. That's pretty much how it worked for Bone Bash 2. Charlotte, I helped on that. Camp KQ, I helped with that. Although that one's a little bit easier. It was a little smaller.
Yeah.
KQ20, KQ25. So I'm always flattered, honestly. Like it's really flattering when somebody's like, "Hey, Aaron, you got input on this," or "Aaron's good at this," and it's like, it's just nice. It's always flattering when people say I do a good job. I try my best. There's also the factor that we put teams in order, but it doesn't necessarily I think the results are going to come out that way.
Right. I was going to ask about whether you think seeding is the place for kind of predictions where you can account for a dark horse, or if it really needs to be based on past major tournament performance.
No, I think dark horse, like if it's a coin flip and you have two teams near each other and you might have an inkling that one's trending in a certain direction or people don't realize how good they are, that might push them a little bit higher in your mind. But really, no, you have to look at past performance more, because that is an actual thing. Like that's something where if somebody were like, "Wait, why'd you do this?" Well, I've got these results in front of me. And if I don't have a full team's results, I've got a player's results. We've seen how a player's played and what they've done and how good they are. You can see if they slap or not. If
Right.
It slaps, right?
It slaps.
So no, there are definitely times like I can look at these groups and I can tell you I think X team will probably do better than this team, but that's not how we seeded them, because that's just the evidence we've got. That's what we had to do this based off of.
Right.
It's not necessarily, you try to take yourself and what your personal thoughts are out of it, your prognostications out of it a little bit, as much as you can.
Right, without completely just blindly looking at numbers.
Right.
Because this game is much more than numbers. It's so much about these social interactions and team dynamics, like you've already mentioned. So you've got this on lockdown. And I know there was a bit of debate on the format, actually, because the idea of power groups was tossed around a bit, but it was eventually discarded for, and correct me if I'm wrong, 7 groups of 5, with the top 3 advancing, so 21 teams straight through, and a wild card to fill the last 3 spots for a 24-team knockout bracket.
That's right. And so the power groups was, I didn't think of it. It was an idea that I've seen bandied about. That's used for bigger tournaments, that fighting game tournaments, stuff like that. You just give people auto entry because you figure they're probably going to make it anyways. So let them duke it out on their own on the side, and then But also, like, say you're signing up for a big fighting game tournament and it's Tekken, and you've been playing Tekken on your PS4 for like a month, and there's a tournament in town, you want to go to it.
Mm-hmm.
The chance of you being able to hang with like the Tekken pros over the last 2 years is very small. So you signed up, you paid this money, you showed up. Would you rather get smashed by the pro, or would you rather have a bunch of games against people in sort of your, area of skills and expertise?
Yeah.
Which would make you have a better time at the tournament? And so that's just using the fighting game example. I saw arguments at Killer Queen. We don't necessarily know that these 5 teams are going to qualify. We don't have that much history. That, totally understand. That's a little bit different. Fighting game, it's an individual game. You know exactly how this individual did every time. Killer Queen, we've got a lot of 5 teams and teams that haven't played together. It's a little bit more difficult. But yeah, so that the idea was then give other teams more games against similar comps, similar teams. Mm-hmm. And then hopefully they'll have a better time, more competitive games, more time on the cab even, because games against teams that are, way or much higher than you in terms of skill and experience are going to be a lot faster. And my thought, and the reason why I came around it, one was for the time concern, because if we're running late on 2 cabs, one of these cabs breaks, not a very religious person, God save us all. Right. You could cut them off and say just like, hey, you're done. You're only playing for seeding anyways. Nobody needs to watch you guys play right now. And 2 was really, was that ability for people hopefully to get games in where they can get all their warriors out, where they can actually run a strategy. Yeah. Like there are some top teams there you can't, they can't get a warrior out. The queen can't do anything, and it's over in 20 seconds. And you didn't get to see what actually worked and how you could get better in the role of defending a hive or protecting a snail or defending gates, because you just never had the chance. So those were the 2 main things that appealed to me. I totally understood why people did not appreciate it. That certain people did. Some people did. Usually the people that were going to get a buy kind of appreciate it. The people that didn't think it was the best idea, especially this close to tournament, totally understood. Yeah. Was happy to drop it. So move to just bigger. The groups are always going to be the size, but letting more advance. Because if you look at this tournament, there's 35 teams, and all these people have played. So even when I say like way more skill or something like that, even the lowest seeded team in this tournament has, been playing this game for a good amount of time, is traveling here or is from here to play this game. And they know how to play it. So that's really what went into, like, I'm looking at this thing and there's like, if I were to cut off after 14 and then make the other teams play through a wild card, not only would the wild card be a lot longer, which is supposed to be on Saturday night, and that's a time issue as well, you could potentially be cutting off teams that are very good, that can make some noise on the second day, just because maybe something didn't break right in the group stage on early Saturday. Yeah. So I wanted to include more people. We have these 2 cabs. If you watch this, please treat them kindly. You see anybody messing with these cabs, banging them, messing stuff around, drink half your beer before putting it in the cup, to avoid spillage if you can. I wanted to see, I think we have the capability to handle this thing. A little bit of a dice roll. I said that on Facebook, but if we can get, if we can only have 1 tournament on Sunday, if it's 24 teams, and we've seen in Charlotte they had a 23-team tournament on 2 cabs on this build. Skill probably definitely higher for this tournament than that 23. That's definitely higher. Yeah. But they were still done by like 9 or 10, and they had to stop using 1 cab, and they started later than 12. So, like in New York, even that one that went to 1 in the morning, granted it was just a 12-team tournament, but didn't start till 4 or 5 in the afternoon. Right. And we had an hour off because of cab issues, and there's only 1 cab for that. Mm-hmm. So I'm pretty confident with 2 cabs starting at 12. We've got a lot of people that know this game and know how to fix this game, and we're really relying heavily on community members as much as possible to, if something happens, to work with us and to get that done as soon as possible and keep moving forward.
Yeah, and it's great to be able to trust, I think, our community at large, to be cooperative and to work through these technical issues and all that stuff. But beyond the community at large, I know there's kind of a core team around this tournament, Killer Queen 25. Yeah. What's the breakdown of responsibilities? I know Megan usually handles streaming stuff. Eklo does registration and things like that. what's the breakdown? Who's doing what? Who gets a shout out?
so this last year Garzone did housing. This year we got Josh doing housing.
Mm-hmm.
We have Garzone doing event planning around the tournament, as well as organizing tournament officials.
Mm-hmm.
Josh is in charge of just general behind the scenes beyond housing, making forms. He'll be in charge of collecting money and stuff on Saturday. Community reach out, all sorts of stuff. And then Megan's in charge of the stream area of things.
Mm-hmm.
The stream is with 2 cabinets, though. This isn't just 1 cabinet, and we've never streamed on the Uptown Cab. And we've got, beyond Megan, we've got community members who are much more interested now than a year ago in terms of helping with streaming stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of people. We have a lot of us doing as much as we can to make the stream as slapping as we can. And then my responsibility generally is tournament rules, format, organization for that stuff. Megan's been gone for the last 2 weeks. She was in Poland for work. She was still very active, which was huge.
Mm-hmm.
But just not even physically being here. And then Josh was in Michigan for last week, roughly. So in many ways, I tried to make sure that nothing flagged while they were gone. And just kind of stepped in, try to keep the ball moving, because I want as much done early as possible. That's why you want the groups out a week and a half early if you can, or 2 weeks early. That's why you want format. If there anything that happens, you want the cabs lined up. We're going to try to practice streaming on the Uptown Cab tomorrow. I ordered a capture card that should be here for that. So we're just trying to make sure as much is done early so that when things happen close up to the tournament, we're prepared. We don't have to worry about those things anymore.
Yeah. That's great to be looking at.
Yeah, I mean, I have to give a shout out to Mike Rasnick and Justin Booth for their work on the stream so far. They've Mike hired somebody to do some artwork for it. We're going to have a whole new overlay. Justin's wrote this whole app. We're going to pull Kill the Death in. We're going to have screens with people's pictures on them that they submitted in between rounds, Team X vs. Y with their pictures on them. He's built that all out. I think we've been working on it. He's going to have a commentator screen that will show the players and their preferred pronouns as well. He submitted those.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys are just unbelievable. And it's all you do is, somebody was asking me over the weekend, how's it getting on? It's I'll just put out a call for something, and this community blows my mind every day. With just somebody that knows something, that can do something, that's willing to do something, taking time out of their day for their hobby. It's a hobby. Nobody's getting paid off this.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
It blows my. it just blows my mind every day. It almost makes me get emotional, but it really does. Just with the amount of help and the people helping pull their weight, it's just been unreal.
Yeah. It's always great to see the community come together to build something bigger, I guess.
Yeah. We want to show people a good time. We want to have the best. We don't want to hear complaints. I want nobody to walk out complaints.
Well, it's a lot of people. I'm just saying, someone's gonna probably stub their toe on the way out the door, and there's nothing you can do about that.
That's true.
But I know part of this also deals with rule sets, and you brought this up. Chicago's been revising the rule sets in different ways. Over time. So I'm just curious, are there any kind of rule set changes that that have weighed on your mind at all over the past? And what has Chicago really done to kind of change things over time?
Yeah, I mean, you can talk about game mechanics like map choice stuff, where we've kind of cribbed from New York in terms of picking day-night dust, picking from the map pool that has been chosen and stuff like that. We let people do rock paper scissors for cab or side. You can talk about stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
We've always done double elimination. We are sort of the people that were the loudest voices in the room for Bumble Basketball. I'm doing the wild card tournament, and so we've definitely done stuff in that area. In terms of the thing that's really been modified, from last year's, and it's been really a conversation of the last year, and you've talked to other people about this, is just sort of making the code of conduct something that'll allow people to have the best time that they can, in a utilitarian sort of way at our tournaments. And so I think my reticence for years in terms of making rules for stuff like this, or even a code of conduct, is really what authority do I have? I am just a person that is a member of a community that over time has been brought into being among sort of moderators or admins, but we're just people, and these are our friends, and I don't own the venue that we play in. So really early on, the rules were just like, you can't break the rules of Logan Arcade. You do and you're going to get kicked out.
Right.
That's really the only authority at first I could really sort of claim, is, just not breaking the rules of the bar that lets us play there. Because I could go to the bar and be like, this guy person did this, that they'd kick them out, right? Because it's their bar. But over time, and as you look at things, you look at behavior tournaments and how people interact and what people have said in terms of how they want to experience a tournament in a healthy, positive way. And them saying, yes, you can make rules for this. You can. And nobody being like, no, you can't. You can't police any of this. Like, there are certain lines we don't want to cross because it may possibly, it's a little more gray, I guess is the way to put it. But just having people say, yeah, no, you guys write the rules, we will enforce them as community, has really been sort of empowering and changed the way I've looked at how rule sets should be made and enforced. So I hope everybody's read the rules for this tournament. I don't think we'll have too many issues. There's always things up for debate. I trust David Garzone and the people who have volunteered to be tournament officials for this to do their best in enforcing them. But yeah, that's really been sort of the evolving thing for rule sets and the code of conduct we have in place. I've talked to people at length and taken community feedback on it, and try to do the best we can to make something that's firm, yet agreeable, I suppose you could say.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I mean, it's just been interesting for me to watch it because Chicago has always been a leader in the national community. And so seeing you all taking these steps, I was just curious to get the inside scoop, I guess.
It's really been that's pretty much it. Just trying to take into account multiple voices as much as you can, but also know that there are people who in the past have not had enjoyable experience, for whatever reason, and taking into account everything they say and believing them. And going from there.
Yeah. So, while respecting all of these other voices, I want to hear more from just you. Let's imagine Killer Queen 25 has neither of our teams in the tournament. Who wins Killer Queen 25? Our team's taken out of the equation.
Oh, if it's not pizza or team break?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Let's take these two teams out. I want your hot take. Forget seeding. Put the dark horses into play. Who's going to win? Who's going to win?
If I had a bet on it, I'd bet on Yeesh. I would. I'd bet on Woody's team.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough, though, because Dracon's playing some of the best Queen I think I've ever seen out of him. I just don't know that I've seen their five together because Megan's been out of town and I've been playing with them, and we've had it's just been me, Helen, and Andrew, and just kind of like the three of us with different rotating people, and I haven't even always been playing with them, and I've been on the other team against them. But yeah, Yeesh has been consistently at the arcade playing together, and they look to be trending in the right direction lately. They had a bit of an underwhelming result at that MCS, but that's a very strong team. It's hard to bet against a Rishi, Dan, Katz, Logan, Woody team. Yeah. But I think one of them, I don't know about Sam. I might bet, Sam is coming. I don't know how you bet against them. Sam's really strong, and that team lights out. So I would bet one of those three. Would probably be one of my bet. I might actually end up betting on New York just because New York tends to freaking come in here and win every time. So.
Well, I'll send your regards to them. Although you might see them before me.
Or something. I mean, nobody wants to see New York versus New York in the final. Let's be real. This is the hot take. Nobody wants to see that. So if you guys could just do us all a favor and eliminate each other early in the bracket, that'd be great.
I mean, look, yeah, you could break up the bracket so that
I could break it up
almost certain.
Couldn't I?
Is that why people were falling asleep at Coronation? Just because it was New York versus New York?
Yeah, it was late too, and people weren't really drinking. I think people will do a better job staying awake here. Although that, I mean, that is a consideration in terms of like format for the tournament and the power thing, and making a bracket smaller than 24 is. I mean, Josh Eckler was recently just telling me like people want to be entertained. You know, they want to be entertained by this Killer Queen. They don't necessarily care who's playing at the end. They just want to be entertained by it. Like,
Yeah.
they want exciting Killer Queen. Um, so yeah, that's part of it. And length of tournaments tends to sap energy. So something within a digestible amount of time that's exciting is really what I'm hoping for.
Yeah.
In terms of who wins or not, I don't care. I just want people to be excited in an appropriate manner, and for them to do it in a reasonable time frame.
So nothing longer than a work day, hopefully.
We can't go to 1 o'clock in the morning again. That's the bar made clear that last year they would have turned us off. Yeah, we kept going.
I'm with you there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we've covered a lot of great stuff. I just want to
Okay.
give you a bit of time at the end just to share any words of wisdom or even like a public service announcement if you want to be so boring as that.
Yeah, so I guess I'd take this time to say, just, you know, really it means a lot to all of us here, the excitement. Whenever somebody says they're hyped for this or they're excited for this, it means a lot. I take it to heart, and we're doing the best we can to make sure that it lives up to not only your expectations but our expectations, because we know that we can put on a great event, and we've taken into account, you know, last year and the things that were great last year and the things that weren't so great. We tried to hone it as well as every other tournament, and we just want to say thank you to everybody for the excitement for it. But I also want to say thank you to everybody that has had ideas, that has done stuff that we've taken from. This isn't done alone. You know, we built this on the shoulder of giants, and really the KQ community, not just in Chicago but everywhere, is just lovely. And keep being yourselves. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I think your scene has absolutely earned the reputation. The Chicago Fives are iconic, and like I said, they were the Nationals before there was a Nationals, and so I think people are rightly excited, and I think you guys are going to do a great job.
Thanks, Wilk.
Yeah,
appreciate it, buddy.
Absolutely, and thank you everyone for joining us. We'll be seeing you at Killer Queen 25. Hopefully we all have a great time, because everyone in Chicago is doing their best to make sure that happens. Look forward to Season 2. It should be coming later this year. This is just 2 special episodes just for this great tournament. So thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.